Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of My Life's Tracks. I'm your host Mark. And, thank you. Oh, that's unexpected, but thank you. Thank you everyone. Glad you're enjoying the show. Thank you. No, don't stand up. Stay seated. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Glad you're having fun with this channel. Okay, so this is going to be a new series that I'll have on the channel called From the Yard, where I show parts of my collection. And this first show will be about Model Power's MetalTrains. Model Power doesn't exist anymore, and so these aren't being produced, but you can still find them online and sometimes at train shows. I got fascinated by these just because they were made of all metal, which isn't something new in the hobby. The earlier years, I think like the 50s, 60s even, there was metal cars and kits. But nowadays plastic is the common material. And the first car I got was this one, the White Rock Water. And I just thought it was a pretty cool looking car. Pretty good graphics. I mean, it's not high end detail that we may be used to with cars today, but these things are pretty hefty, and they came with metal wheels. You see there's not a lot of detail on the bottom for braking and lines and stuff, and they came with plastic CAT compatible couplers that are actually real spring couplers instead of the plastic spring. So I'm not a huge fan of plastic couplers. Most people aren't, but because they have the real spring on them, they do work better than the ones that just have the plastic spring. And we're going to show you my scale here. Here is a Athearn Blue Box reefer. I'll put that on the scale, and that comes in at 96 grams. But these MetalTrains comes in at 317 grams. So they're pretty hefty. And I know they weren't extremely popular with a lot of guys because they felt they were too heavy. But I really like these. There's just some of the heft of these things. It's like you hold on to a real miniature train car. And I have most of the collection, not every piece they put out. But we'll take a little quick look at all the ones you can get, and they're pretty much the same on both sides. Got the Burlington, and then what's interesting is they did the State of Maine products, the Bangor and Aroostook. I hope I said that right. I have a tendency not to pronounce things correctly. And then the same car, but in New Haven. Okay, next we'll look at the metal boxcars. Here we have the MetalTrain boxcars, and I think these are even heavier than the reefer cars we just looked at. So first off, we'll just weigh it. Here is a Athearn Blue Box car. It comes in at 92 grams. And I'll measure. The MetalTrain comes in at 387 grams. And this car may look a little familiar to you. We used it in our first episode of Train Lab. I have a couple of these, so that's why I chose this one to use. And it does have working doors. Something you don't find that much anymore, it seems, in model trains. That's New York Central. And then we have the more modern day CP rail. The Reading. Santa Fe. I'll show you the bottom. Again, not a lot of detail, but you know, it's got nice, clean graphics on the tops, and then your brake wheel end. And these two all have metal wheels. All the MetalTrains came with metal wheels. It was interesting, they did 2 Canadian Pacific cars. I don't know why they did that, but and I really like this one. I don't know if it's just the color, but I think it's a pretty cool looking car. And then we have the Sioux line. And you can hear the doors sliding. All right, next we'll look at the flat cars. Here are the flat cars, and first thing we will weigh a Athearn blue box flat car. And that comes in at 77 grams. And the MetalTrain comes in at 149 grams. Now these, from what I read online, a lot of modelers didn't mind because they're, I guess, a decent weight for a flat car. Because a lot of your flat cars aren't really that heavy because there's not that much material. But you'll find there's not a lot of discussion on these online, at least not that I found. And there's almost no videos on YouTube discussing the Model Power MetalTrain. And I assume that's probably because a lot of guys, you know, didn't think much of Model Power previous trains, so they probably didn't give these too much attention. Plus, these kind of came out, I think, towards the end of Model Power's life. So let's take a look at these. You got your Canadian National. Very small brake wheel. Some nice detail. These little grab irons. Then they're metal. They're molded in. And then the bottom, you know, again, there's not a ton of detail. But my thought is, who's looking at the bottom of a train car anyways when it's on the track rolling by? And then we have the chassis system, which is probably one of the coolest names out there, I think, because you have a little, if you can tell, a little cat in the sea. Then we have the Pennsylvania, the all-time great names in trains. Then we have the Santa Fe. Sorry if I'm holding these a little funny. There's the deck detail. So I think the flat cars actually are probably the best of the line as far as if you want to go for accuracy and if it'll work with your modern trains today. And then I got this one used, that's why it's got the glue marks on it, but it looks like it's weathered. And the brake wheel's a little off, but that's the trailer train. Okay, next we'll look at the tank cars. Okay, and here we have the tank cars. So once again, we will measure or weigh Athearn blue box tank car. And it comes in at 97 grams. And the MetalTrain comes in at 210 grams. And you can take a look at the Santa Fe. And yes, I'm thinking it looks like a Tootsie Roll too. Top detail. These are actually pretty good detail, actually. You see the little place cards. And you have the brake wheel. But, you know, like I said, compared to today, there's not a lot of detail in these. You got your bottom brake detail, not a lot of lines. But these are pretty comparable to what Athearn had out at the time. And what's interesting, this is your kind of older tank cars. These are probably more like, I would say, 50s, 60s tank cars, where the Boxcars you would have saw probably through the, possibly to the 80s. And then we have the Hooker chemicals, make your own joke at home. The mobile gas, pretty sharp. That's the thing I'll say, they had really sharp printing on them. And then the shell, and I have 3 of these. You can see there's 2 more in the background. I think I bought one by mistake because I forgot I had one. And then I bought they made train sets of these, and one came in a train set. But I probably should use those for the train lab weathering, since I have 3 of them. But that is the tank cars. Next we will look at the ballast hoppers. Okay, and here we have the ballast hopper cars, which are kind of unusual because most hopper cars that you would see made are basically for coal. But these, if you look at the doors here, the doors would open this way towards the camera, and they would use these to put new ballast down. And I don't think a lot of manufacturers made, I don't know if there's a plastic version of this or not. There probably is, I'm just not aware of it. But these 2 are quite hefty. Oh, I forgot to measure it, so let's do that. So we'll first weigh a, made by Stuart, this coal hopper. Maybe not. Okay, that comes in at 70 grams. And the MetalTrain comes in at 221 grams. And once again, an interesting selection of names. Alaska Rally, which you don't see a whole lot of. And then you have the Pennsylvania. It's pretty attractive gold lettering. I wish they would have put the numbers on the end too. I don't think Pennsylvania even had such a thing, but hey. We have the Union Pacific with Southern Pacific markings. And then we have the BNSF, or Burlington Northern Santa Fe, which is kind of interesting. That's probably the most modern paint scheme that they did before they stopped manufacturing. Okay, up next we will look at the ore cars. Now these are the ore cars, and I don't have a plastic version of this to compare these 2, but we'll weigh it anyways and see what we got. And these come in at 80 grams, which is not too bad for such a little car. I think guys like these too. They're a good, decent weight for such a small little car. And oops, let me get a pretty good detail on these for being a cast metal. You got little printing inside. There's the bottom. Now these all came in a single car with load, and depending on the road name, sometimes you would get an extension piece. Well, I'll show you this first. I bought this one used and the load didn't come with it, so, but hey, they run empty too. Get my fingers out of the way. But some did come with an extension piece. As you can see, it sits a little higher, and that you could take off, and if you want to, and just have the load in there like that. And the reason you'd have an extension piece like this Depends on what the car was hauling. I'm not an expert on these, but my understanding is that if these were hauling iron ore, you wouldn't have the extension piece because the weight of iron ore, they're just little teeny pellets, and they compact, become very dense, is so heavy that you would just, you wouldn't want any more weight in the car. And that's why these are so small, is that they carry so much weight that you needed to distribute the weight, across the trucks instead of having a long hopper car. And then we have the Chicago Northwestern. And sometimes they would haul, I think it's called tactonite pellets, which are a little lighter, and that would usually give your extension on the top. Now, like I said, these came in single packs. I don't have all the single packs in this car. All the cars I saw previous, I have all the road names they produced. But they also made 3 packs of the same road numbers. And they had different numbers on them. Like this is 27, 181, 82, 83. And then the single is 86. And I don't have all of these either. These are actually hard to come by. All the collection, the MetalTrain collection, I've had the hardest time finding these ore cars. But there's some good news about that. Lionel has acquired a lot of the Model Power molds. So they are reproducing Model Power's cars. And they did some upgrades on them. But these are so well done that they're just putting new paint schemes on them. And they're offering them in singles and 6 packs. And they offer the 2 kinds of load, the iron ore or the tactonite pellets. The last one here. But I think from Model Power, I'm missing 21 of these cars. There was a lot of these put out. Okay, next we'll look at everybody's favorite, the Caboose. Okay, so we have the Cabooses here. Now, if you don't like Cabooses, my advice is get out of the hobby right now. Because how can you not love a Caboose? But anyways, so we will first measure. The closest thing I have to this is a Bachmann Caboose. And this is actually a special one because apparently, if you see a little symbol right there, they did train sets for Norfolk Southern employees. But I was able to buy one of these at a place in Altoona, Pennsylvania when I visited. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, we'll measure this one. It comes in at 100 grams even. And the MetalTrain comes in at 229 grams. Now, with these Cabooses, they generally made a Caboose that matched the engines that they made in the MetalTrain line. And these are pretty nice detail-wise. They don't have windows, which is something that pretty much everyone does today. But they're nicely done. And actually, I don't know if you can see, but the smokestack is not solid. It actually is hollow through there. And like I said, minimum detail on bottom, but okay, this one's actually, oh, this is interesting. This one has freight trucks on it. It has coil springs, which I don't know if Alaska Railway had coil springs in theirs, but generally these came with the proper leaf springs that Cabooses almost always had on them. I guess it gives a more comfortable ride for the crew inside. But there's our UP. Even has nice little printing. I don't know if I can get that in the camera. Apparently not. You got your Canadian Pacific Rail. Now, when CP was in Binghamton, I actually saw a caboose just like this in the yard. I don't know if it's identical to this one. Probably not, but it's pretty close. But if you're what's known as a rivet counter, you might not like it, but I think it's cool. Got the classic Santa Fe. Oh, I should add these are the wide vision caboose. You can see how it comes over the body more, the cupola. Gives the crew a better view. Then we have the Canadian National. The Pennsylvania, which I'm pretty sure never had a caboose like this or a paint scheme like this. But hey, we're having fun. And here's the interesting part. They made a Burlington Northern Santa Fe BNSF caboose. It's missing a smokestack, but I got plenty of spares of those. Anyways, they made this paint scheme, but they never made an engine in MetalTrain that was a BNSF unit. They did make an Amtrak engine, but no Amtrak caboose. Although I think Amtrak may have had one or two cabooses. Once again, I'm not an expert on Amtrak or many railroad lines. But all right, next we're going to go to the engines. Now we have the MetalTrain engines, and MetalTrain only did the F7 in their all-metal line. It would have been nice if there was other ones, but I don't think the line ever really took off, so they didn't really expand it. So we will weigh this Bachmann. I think this is a Silver Series engine, and it's quite hefty itself, and we'll see how much that comes in at. That comes in at 506 grams. And let's see what MetalTrain comes in at. This comes in at 584. Now these came DCC ready and DCC with sound. I only have one that's DCC with sound, and it's the Santa Fe in the blue and yellow paint scheme. It's not the best sound. It came in the early years of DCC, but it's I think it's pretty cool. It actually has Mars light, and I'll run it for you later, and you'll see that. These two I bought used, and someone did put a DCC decoder in them, and they run okay. This is missing a horn. They're a little flaky, but yeah, it's still cool, so we put a decoder in. So we have the classic Union Pacific, which is pretty sharp, and they're all the same body, dual headlight. Now this one's interesting that the second light is red, and I'm not sure if Model Power produced them that way or the person who I got it from put it in. Then we have the Pennsylvania. That's a pretty handsome paint scheme. And I'm sure these paint schemes aren't exactly like the prototype. But then once again, all these railroads I'm showing you, I'm not an expert on all these. I'm more of a nickel plate road guy. And even then, I'm not an expert on nickel plate road. Canadian National with the wet noodle logo, as I call it. Pretty handsome paint scheme. I don't know if I show you guys the top. Your fans and horn. And then the back end. And your Alaska. This one is very hard to find these days. And then you probably have the all-time classic paint scheme, the Santa Fe. can never go wrong with a Santa Fe F7. Now, like I said, let me show you the Amtrak. They made a caboose to go with all these engines, except they never made an Amtrak caboose. They made the BNSF caboose, but no BNSF engine, which BNSF, to my knowledge, I'm 99% sure never had F units, because the F unit is a very old diesel. Let me arrange for you the engine caboose combo. So here we have the engine caboose combos. Having two Santa Fe paint schemes, but there's only one caboose. And you had, like I said, you had the Amtrak towards the back, but they made a BNSF caboose with no engine to go with it, which seemed odd. Maybe they had plans down the road for one of their other units to be producing metal. I don't know, but anyways, there's the collection. And then we're going to talk about a few other parts of this collection. Oh, I almost forgot to show you this. So the engines came in a green box. I get time to clear. But you can see they came DCC ready. And that was the standard box. But if you've got the DCC version with sound, it was a bigger box, because what it came with is this remote, battery powered remote with 6 functions. So if you ran it on DC, you could still do all the sounds, which I think was a great idea. I don't think anyone else, maybe Broadway Limited did that, or they still do, I'm not sure, with their trains. And I also forgot to show you this 3-pack of, Burlington, I'm gonna make a mess here, aren't I? Burlington ore cars. Model Power also produced train sets of the metal train line. This is an Explorer 2 set. I did get a Explorer, just the Explorer, it wasn't called 1. The box was so beat up that it just was held together with duct tape and it fell apart. So I ended up throwing it out, but kept all the pieces. What you got was I believe an oval of track, a little power pack. I think these came with a couple figures. And then you'd get the engine, 2 cars, and a caboose. And there are 2 train sets that I've not gotten in this train line. One is their military train set, which is all olive drab, engine, cars, and caboose. And the one I really want is their holiday train, which came with the engine. It was a special train paint scheme, or a Christmas paint scheme. And it came with the ballast hopper, and I believe a reefer car, and the caboose. And those are hard to find. The military set, someone's got one on eBay right now, but I'm not going to spend $300 on it. But it's brand new. And another thing they did in metal, let me move this camera down a little bit here, is they made these flat cars. And it varied on what was on them. Some came with cable reels. I think there's a military one with a tank on it. There's one with a helicopter on it. And this one has a spotlight that lights up. And the whole body is metal. And they always come with 2 figures on it. And the brake wheel, though, was oversized. I'll take it out of the box and we'll run on the track so you can see the light. But this model is also being reproduced by Lionel. And I can't remember the road numbers or paint schemes they're coming out with, but so at least there's 2 MetalTrains cars that'll be coming back out to the market. All right, let's go run some MetalTrains. So here we have the Union Pacific with a DCC decoder installed. You can hear the sound. Yeah, it's a little loud. Alternative horn. That's kind of cool. Dynamic brake, apparently. Not sure what that was. Sounds like somebody took a Polaroid picture. Brake line. Coupler. Then we'll show you the Canadian Pacific. Oops, sorry for the camera work. I'm trying to do multiple things. Now this one, like I said, has the little red headlight. And the sounds are a little bit different. Better horn. Now what's interesting with this one is, it seems the coder is a little more sensitive. That's notch 1. The engine 4, you get up to notch 6, I think. And now we'll look at the Model Power engine that came from Model Power with the decoder and sound already installed in it. You can see this one has that really cool Mars light. It has much better sounds. And we'll couple up to a Model Power MetalTrain. As I promised, I would show you the flat car with the spotlight. It's pretty cool. The only thing I don't like I said, is the brake lever on it. It's kind of thick. I wish they would use like a wire or a finer plastic. But let's run a MetalTrain. And she's going up at 2% grade without any issue really. And this is a heavy train. And then just real quick to end this, a DC version. Alright, I hope you enjoyed seeing my collection of model power metal trains. And as I can find them, I'll buy ones I don't have. And we'll have to check out the Lionel versions of these. Alright, thanks for watching. Have a good night.